Steel does not usually dream. It bends, it rusts, it obeys physics. But one night, under white studio lights and a cracked glass window heard around the world, steel became a statement. In an industry polished smooth by decades of focus groups and aerodynamic curves, something sharp arrived. Not fast, not cheap, not familiar. A vehicle that looked less like a car and more like a provocation, as if a concept sketch had escaped into reality before anyone could stop it. Markets laughed, engineers argued, the internet exploded. And somewhere beneath the memes, beneath the mockery, money quietly leaned forward. Because power rarely announces itself with elegance. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in controversy. Sometimes it wears angles instead of curves. Sometimes it dares you to misunderstand it. The Cybertruck was never just transportation. It was a signal to competitors, to regulators, to investors, to culture itself, that the rules could be bent by those bold enough to redraw the game. But why would the world's most valuable car company risk ridicule on purpose? Why release a vehicle that defied taste, tradition, and even common sense? And what if the Cybertruck was never designed to sell cars, but to reshape power? To understand the Cybertruck, you first have to understand Tesla, not as a car company, but as a capital machine wrapped in technology, narrative, and belief. By the time the Cybertruck was revealed in 2019, Tesla was already bending the logic of global markets. It produced fewer vehicles than traditional automakers, yet commanded a market valuation larger than Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler combined. Investors were not buying cars, they were buying a future. A future of software-defined vehicles, vertically integrated energy systems, and a company that refused to behave like its peers. The global auto industry, meanwhile, was trapped in gravity. Massive factories, thin margins, union negotiations, dealer networks, regulations written for gasoline engines, not batteries and code. Even as electric vehicles gained popularity, most legacy manufacturers treated them as cautious side projects, compliance tools rather than existential bets. Tesla did the opposite. It bet everything. And in that context, the pickup truck mattered more than any luxury sedan. Pickups are not niche products. They are the economic backbone of the automotive world, especially in North America. For decades, trucks like the Ford F-150 generated enormous profits, often subsidizing the rest of an automaker's lineup. High margins, brand loyalty, cultural identity welded to steel. If Tesla wanted true dominance, it could not stop at sedans and crossovers. It had to invade the most profitable territory in the industry and win. But instead of blending in, Tesla chose confrontation. The Cybertruck did not whisper innovation. It shouted disruption. And beneath its polarizing design was a deeper strategic question. What happens when a company uses culture itself as a competitive weapon? Origins and early foundations. The Cybertruck did not begin as a design problem. It began as a strategic one. For decades, pickup trucks followed an unwritten rule: familiarity sells, rounded edges, aggressive grills, incremental change wrapped in tradition. Buyers did not want surprises, they wanted reassurance. The truck market was conservative, emotional, and extraordinarily profitable. Tesla looked at that landscape and saw something different. Not loyalty, inertia. Not strength, repetition. By the late 2010s, electric vehicles were no longer experiments. Battery costs had fallen nearly 90% since 2010. Software has become the most valuable component of a car, and manufacturing constraints, not demand, were Tesla's primary bottleneck. The question was no longer, can electric trucks exist? It was, how do you make one without inheriting the past? Traditional pickups are complex, thousands of stamped parts, paint shops that cost billions, design compromises made to satisfy decades-old tooling. Tesla wanted none of that. Instead, it pursued an idea that sounded almost reckless: reduce complexity so radically that manufacturing itself becomes the advantage. Enter stainless steel. Cold-rolled stainless steel was strong enough to eliminate many internal supports, durable enough to reduce cosmetic damage, and critical for one reason: it removed the need for paint shops, one of the most expensive and time-consuming elements of auto manufacturing simply disappeared. The shape followed the strategy. Flat panels were not an aesthetic rebellion, they were an economic decision. Curves are expensive, angles are cheap. Every bend eliminated was a cost removed, a tolerance simplified, a factory sped up. What looked like science fiction was, in reality, industrial logic. At the same time, Tesla understood something deeper about attention. In a crowded market, invisibility is death. The Cybertruck's design ensured it could never be ignored. Criticism became free distribution. Launches became cultural events. Early reservations flooded in hundreds of thousands within days, signaling demand not just for a vehicle, but for belief. This was not product development. It was belief engineering. A seed planted in uncertainty. An invisible architecture forming beneath the noise. Major turning points and power shifts. After the unveiling, reality pushed back. Manufacturing stainless steel at scale proved brutally difficult. Traditional stamping failed, tolerances tightened, supply chains resisted. What looked simple on stage became complex on factory floors. Then came the delays. Promised timelines slipped. Critics called it vaporware. Analysts questioned Tesla's discipline. Meanwhile, competitors moved. Ford released the F-150 Lightning. Rivian entered with investor enthusiasm. GM announced electric trucks wrapped in familiar shapes. But Tesla was not retreating. It was consolidating. Rather than forcing Cybertruck into old factories, Tesla waited for Giga Texas, a factory designed around the vehicle, not the other way around. Massive casting machines replaced hundreds of welded parts. Structural battery packs collapsed layers of complexity. Manufacturing itself became the advantage. By 2022, the strategy shifted from speed to leverage. While competitors chased volume, Tesla chased margin control. While others layered electric drivetrains onto gasoline-era platforms, Tesla rebuilt vehicles around software and energy density. The market noticed. Even without Cybertruck deliveries, Tesla's valuation surged past $1 trillion at its peak, pricing in not cars, but dominance across batteries, autonomy, and manufacturing intelligence. By late 2023, when deliveries finally began, the narrative had changed. The design was no longer the headline. The capability was. Torque, towing, durability, software-driven upgrades delivered over the air. This was not a truck competing in tradition. It was a platform competing on time. And time favors those who redesign the system others must follow. Hidden mechanisms and profit secrets. The real genius of the Cybertruck lives beneath its steel. Tesla anchored pricing expectations years in advance, locking perceived value before costs fully materialized. That gap bought patience from buyers and investors alike. Manufacturing simplification became margin expansion. No paint shop, fewer parts, structural integration. Each decision shaved costs invisibly while preserving premium pricing. Software became the hidden engine. The Cybertruck is monetized long after purchase: performance upgrades, autonomy packages, subscriptions. A depreciating asset transformed into a recurring revenue platform. Then there is attention economics. Tesla spent almost nothing on advertising, yet dominated public consciousness. Controversy replaced marketing. Polarization replaced persuasion. The uncomfortable truth is this: profit does not always come from being loved. Sometimes it comes from being impossible to ignore. The Cybertruck is not optimized for consensus. It is optimized for control. A silent engine of profit humming beneath stainless steel silence. Human impact and identity. Every machine eventually meets a human life. Pickup trucks are not just vehicles, they are identity, symbols of labor, independence, utility. By redefining the truck, Tesla challenged belonging itself. For some, the Cybertruck represents liberation from fossil fuels, maintenance cycles, mechanical fragility. For others, it feels like intrusion. Both reactions fuel the system. Factories feel it too. Giga Texas is an experiment in labor and automation. Fewer parts mean fewer hands. Software replaces some skills and demands new ones. Efficiency creates opportunity and displacement. Consumers live inside these systems. Over-the-air updates redefine ownership. Control shifts subtly from driver to developer. Vehicles evolve after purchase. Ownership becomes conditional, software-mediated. This is not morality. It is structured. Every paycheck, every mile driven, every online argument reflects decisions made years earlier. We don't just buy products. We enter systems. And those systems quietly shape who we become. The Cybertruck began as a joke to some, a prophecy to others, and a risk to everyone involved. But it was never about building the strangest truck on the road. It was about testing how far narrative, manufacturing, and belief could be stretched without breaking. From controversy to consolidation, from delay to leverage, Tesla turned confusion into capital and attention into power. The lesson is not that disruption is beautiful. It's that power often looks strange before it looks obvious. The Cybertruck reminds us that markets do not reward comfort. They reward control over costs, story, and time. And the story is still unfolding. As electric trucks multiply and culture catches up, the real question is no longer whether the Cybertruck succeeds or fails. It's this: when the next system is built, who gets to decide its shape? If this story changed how you see innovation, share your thoughts below. If you value deep business storytelling, like the video and subscribe. Because the most powerful forces shaping our future rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, and then all at once.